Welcome back to Motivated Masculine Men podcast, where we are here to inspire, educate, and challenge men to embrace healthy masculinity, deepen their relationships, optimize their health, and step boldly into their purpose. Today we have a dear friend who we've met a couple times in person, and he's had a lot of things happen since I last really spoke to him. So I'm looking forward to catching up with you, Josh. Josh, just real quick, just intro yourself, and then we'll catch up just like we normally do.
Yeah, Josh Waters, currently 39 years old and living in Arizona, sitting in Payson, Arizona right now up in the mountaintops. I'm an independent sales rep and do quite a bit of work for a few companies in the tactical realm. And you may even see me on Instagram coming up here pretty quick with First Tactical.
Nice, man, nice. So tell me, obviously, you and I we met a few years back. We through a mutual friend, Brandon Griffith, who he's amazing as well. I actually haven't had him on the new version of the podcast yet. I keep like being like I need to reach out to him.
Wait, him and Tim say hi.
Okay, cool, perfect, excellent. Tell them back hi. But the last time we met, we were doing a first responders first aid course with Brandon through Griffith Blue Heart. We just kicked it off. I don't know what it was about the two of us. I don't know. Maybe we're both tall, big guys, and we just decided we're going to be friends. And we've connected since. You know, we message. We have a questionable group chat, but a lot's happened since then as well, man. Like, just okay. I'm just gonna jump into it. Since then, you had a stroke. You had a lot happen. But what's going on life-wise? I know back then I think you were single. What's going on relationship-wise? What's going on? Like, just tell me what's going on in your life, man. I want to hear it, and then I can tell you mine if you
No,
want to
a
know.
little bit more than just a stroke. It was 6/24/24. I came home from work about 9 o'clock from work on a Monday night, and I had a ruptured brain aneurysm. I was standing in my kitchen
Right.
and had the massive thunderclap headache. The way I tell the story, it'll be written in my book, which will release here in December, was a major league pitcher threw a can of soda at the back of my head. Massive pain flash, blurred vision, dizziness, the whole nine. I braced myself against the counter. I now remember the fall backwards thanks to some PTSD flashback, but for the next 37 hours, I laid on that floor in left side paralysis after multiple strokes and had an active brain bleed. My mother saved my life by making the well check call. So go back to the masculine roots there. Call mom. And my mom's relationship and our relationship goes back to my dad's health. My dad ended up being a double amputee, both legs above the knee, was an open heart surgery survivor times two, a triple and a quadruple open heart bypass. All of that we attribute to his exposure to Agent Orange in Vietnam as a helicopter door gunner. So if you want to talk masculinity, that's where we get that root for me at least. Decided to leave Vietnam. They made him a drill sergeant. After he got out of the army, he bought a powerlifting gym, and then he had me. So at 6'2", 289 pounds, he was benching 535 and decided to spit out a kid. And he turned out to be 6'5", and that's me. But she saved my life. She made that well check call. She hadn't heard from me for well over a day. And I was scooped up by Tempe Fire. When they found me, I was in complete left side paralysis. I arrived at the hospital and had a 90% chance of death. They didn't know if I'd survive. After 2 weeks in the ICU, they weren't sure if I'd walk again. But 17 brain surgeries later, all through femoral arteries, 37 days in the hospital, I am a walking miracle. My chances of being where I am now, living, breathing, walking, talking, and working, are infinitesimal. Absolutely unheard of to come back from what I've been through. I've got 2 stents in my brain holding everything together, and the doctors have given me a clear bill of health, which is massive blessings. So I've been through a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit, man. Like I've obviously through texts and things like that, I've heard all about it, but hearing it from your mouth, it's insane.
Digest.
Yeah, because looking at you now, you're no different to when we met. What,
Right.
3 years ago? Like I
Right.
would
Yeah. And when I went down, and this
insane.
will dovetail right into our conversation, brother, I was in the best shape of my life. I'm
Yeah.
6'5". I was 235 pounds, 13% body fat. I'd grab a mountain bike. I'd go rip out a 30-mile ride on my lunch break just because I could. I'd go to the gym and, okay, how much are we going to standing curl today? And trying to impress the girl I was dating at the time. And, how much do you weigh? Okay, I can curl that. Like, no problem. That kind of guy.
Yeah.
And humbled completely to then wake up 2 weeks later in the ICU looking at your left hand going, well, I recognize that hand, but how do I make it move? How do I make it
Yeah,
work?
man, I know I want to get into talking about how that comeback side of things because I want to know about it. But I guess I mean from a health perspective, and I've got a background in personal training and physical mental health. Surely did the doctors say was there any correlation between you getting back to where you are now and the fact that you had such good health and fitness
Oh, yeah.
prior to?
And in my mid 20s, so at 26 years old, I was 362 pounds. It was a 44-inch waist underneath the belly. I was a big boy and had been since pretty much my entire life. I was the big kid, 350 pounds when I graduated high school, had maintained that obesity into my mid 20s. And then in my mid 20s, I let my feet hit the floor one day and I had arthritis in my feet, knees, hips, and ankles. And I got upset at myself. I was 26. My dad died at 57. And I said, hey, buddy, do you want 26 to be middle aged? Are you done? And my answer to that to myself was not only no, but hell no. And I got up and I started throwing all the junk food out of the kitchen into the trash can. And, I was the kind of guy, this is dated a little bit, but when Biggest Loser was a really big TV show,
Yeah.
I'd sit down and watch Biggest Loser and I'd eat an entire package of Oreos while watching The Biggest Loser. And I
You were the
decided
biggest
that
loser.
I was a
In saying that though, I mean I'm 6'6" and I'm sitting at I think about 220, 215, and I'll sit down and eat a whole packet of Oreos. But I don't train that hard anymore. Different people can do different things, but at the same time, it's
right,
like I'm not obese, I'm not overweight.
right.
I don't do it every single day.
When I was riding 200 miles a week on a mountain bike, I could inhale, once I changed my life and I was up at 5:30 every morning and I was riding 20 miles one direction to get to work and I was changed my life, I could inhale anything I wanted. I mean, that
Yeah,
you become a calorie burning machine.
your
And at my
metabolism goes through the
lightest,
roof.
yeah. At my lightest, I was 213 pounds. So I went from 362 to 213
Good work, man. Good work. And
in
and
about
again,
eight.
like we said, it had an impact on your brain and aneurysm. It had an
Oh, yeah.
impact on your recovery because you already had that base that was now
If
ingrained in you, and also that
if I
work
didn't
ethic.
have that base, I would have never gotten out of that bed. I would have never stood up again.
Mm.
If I had had this ruptured aneurysm and multiple strokes at 350 plus pounds, standing up again would not have been a reality.
If
To
you had
have the
survived.
muscle mass, to have the training that I put myself through for years and maintain that weight loss for a decade and having that mental drive to bike up some of the tallest mountains you can find and ride a bike up. We're talking Canadian Flathead Mountains outside of Banff.
Yeah.
Um, big stuff. So without that physical fitness base, I would have never gotten out of bed again.
If you had survived, to be perfectly
Correct.
honest.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm
So
glad you're
that's
here. I'm glad you're here, brother. Like honestly, like we've talked about before as well. Like we just hit it off that day, and I'm so
yep.
grateful that I got to meet you, and then I'm so grateful you're still with us. And that. Tell me your perspective on masculinity, because obviously that's what we're here to talk about for listeners and viewers. Your perspective on masculinity. What was it before? Has it changed since the aneurysm? Has it changed recently, or is it still kind of set the same? And that's just a blip in the radar when it comes to you and how you portray yourself as a man.
There's been a massive shift in that. So I can tell you that losing your dad at 17 years old sucks because it rips away from you so many of the things that you wish you would have had. So that masculine influence in my life, and we're talking about a very masculine man, power lifter, door gunner, army guy, gun guy, teaching me, everything from how to tune a carburetor to how to rebuild a lawnmower, those things were instilled
Your
in me.
typical masculine side
Right.
of
Typical
things. Yeah.
masculinity was instilled in me, and then I lost him. And I immediately ran from that situation. My dad died when I was 17. I immediately I moved 1,200 miles away and went to Bible college. And I ran away, sorry, mom, from a lot of that pain and a lot of that angst. And when I got to Bible college, I immediately jumped into a relationship with a young lady that would become my first wife because I was at that time, here you are, the big kid, the big guy, had never really talked to girls, and now dad's gone, and what do you do? And you're 1,200 miles away, and this little girl will talk to me. She'll listen to me. She'll listen to my stories. So you think that those are the things that you need to grab onto. And I chased that for many years, that I thought those things were the right path for me in masculinity. And a lot of those things are, but I was doing them almost blind. I had good mentors, I had good people around me, but I didn't have a strong base of what it meant for me to be my own man. And it wasn't until after that divorce, 4 kids, and after that divorce was really started and shaped by my life switch, which I've covered a little bit in my mid 20s there. I decided that I was done living that life of obesity and just getting by. I wanted better for myself. So a decade after my father's death, I started to experience my own masculinity.
Yeah. What shifted that?
Frustration, absolute disgust and frustration with myself. I got to a breaking point and said, it's you or nobody. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's bailing you out of this. You've got to chisel it out yourself.
It always intrigues me when like you have those because I've had them as well where it's just like it's just a switch flicks. And I always wonder what it is that causes the switch to just flick. Like because obviously we'll have a pattern of things that have led up to that, but it's like what causes that moment, that thing to, and honestly, change your life forever, like completely 180
Right.
degree switch, shift. Any thoughts on that? Like, Josh?
It's one of those things for me. You can hear it from 1,000 different men. Many, many men could listen to this podcast and hear it and go, okay, it's time for me to do that. It's time for me to do that. I'll do that Monday. I'll do that someday. But until it's your decision where you stand up and you say, okay, it's my time to do this. Now, having a good community of men around you to help and guide and lead and lay out some stepping stones, that's an amazing piece of that journey. But it will not happen until you make it happen, until you are the one that decides today's the day.
Very true. Surrounding yourself with those men that are going to celebrate with you and keep you going, not pull you back. It definitely helps keep you on that path. But yeah, it is that you have to make that decision.
And often we shy away from conversations as men.
Yeah.
We don't talk about the emotion. We don't talk about the divorce. We don't talk about the self-pity. We don't talk about the self-loathing. We don't talk about depression. We don't talk about our own anxieties because, well, if I do, then I'm giving strength to that. And I'm not a massive believer in, hey, I need to go sit down on the couch and talk all of my trauma out. But looking at a buddy and going, hey, man, I'm having a really hard time with fill in the blank. And he just looks at you square in the eyeballs and goes, I got you, bro. I've been there.
It's so funny.
Men,
I just
yeah,
went through this the last couple of weeks. My wife had a situation happen. She was overseas for work. Had a situation happen. Honestly, I felt so helpless because there was absolutely nothing I could do as a man, as her husband. And I just like remember I thought I was it happened, and then she got home. We were spending the weekend together. On Monday, I took the day off so I could be at home with her and that. And then Tuesday, I went into work and I was riding my motorcycle, got off the motorway or the freeway, and just started fucking bawling my eyes out. It just started to explode because I was holding so much space for her over the weekend and pushing me to the side like cool, like I just need to hold space and I need to be here for her, not like throw my stuff back onto her. Just started bawling my eyes. And then I went into work and my office is I'm in sales as well, as you know. My office is full of women. It is all women besides one guy, and that one guy was not he was off on leave anyways. And he's a young kid, great guy, but again, don't have that kind of thing. And literally just started to lose it. And then I had a team meeting with my boss who's a female and just lost it in the meeting. Like just completely waterworks, everything. And I was like, part of me that inner voice inside of me, and going on to the thing I'm talking about, that inner voice inside of me was stop being so fucking weak.
yeah.
And I'm like, no, this is not weak. This is strength. But you could see in every single woman in the office who, like, because I was a completely different person, like, not my normal bubbly talkative self. And they were all like, hey, Chris, are you okay? Like, I heard you were off sick yesterday. Like, how I was like, oh, it's personal and emotional things. It's physically, I'm fine. Emotionally, not so great. You could see in every single one of them, no, not one of them really knew how to react because not many people see a 6'6", 220-pound guy burst into tears or not be okay.
And
And
that physical, and you get it,
yeah,
and not putting anybody down, and no pun
no,
intended, but you get it when you walk around at 6'5" and then you put boots on and you're 6'6", and it's like somebody looks at you like, okay, that guy's got it all put together. He
yeah.
doesn't need any help. That's the
Mm.
immediate social construct of like, okay, that guy looks,
He's a
halfway.
protector.
He takes care of himself. He's driving a decent truck. He doesn't
Yeah,
need any help. He's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. And then like going on to that brotherhood side of things, like it took me over half the day to call my best friend.
Yeah.
And he and I have a thing because we've had some stuff in the past happen where like I messaged him and then it was like, it didn't like really go, hey, I need you now. And then he called me like, I don't know, 4 or 5 days later and I was like, oh yeah, I had this going on. He's like, dude, just like we've got I don't know if you've seen the Simon Sinek 8 minutes thing where he says, he and a friend have a thing that's like you'd message each other. I need 8 minutes because you can get everything out, especially as a guy, you can get everything out in 8 minutes. Like you can verbalize it out and then you can create a plan and then it's like, cool, well, do we need to find another 8 minutes here soon or not? And so I messaged him. I was like, I've got some stuff going on. I need to talk to someone. And like it was 17 minutes later, he called me and he's like, dude, I'm 17 minutes late. I'm so sorry. I was in a meeting. I didn't even see my phone. And those are the brothers that we have to keep around us.
Oh yeah.
And I know if I message you the same thing, you would drop everything and you call me and vice versa.
And that's just it, having a brotherhood that understands that pull. And
Yeah.
it's not just masculinity. There's a good quote out there that says the lone wolf starves to death in winter. And we have this mentality that, especially here and in the community that I run with, where we just got done teaching people how to save lives with AEDs and performance-based resuscitation, and we're doing wound packing, and everybody in there has got ballistic armor on, and we're all carrying guns, and it's like, hey, we're the top of the food chain, but we all need each other as well. We all
Yes.
need a one-man stack doing entry is gonna get dead.
Yeah, you can't cover everything. I mean, those situations they're oozing testosterone, but at the same time, like you have to look after yourself. And this is the great thing, you're still alive because you had people as well.
Right.
The people, I
Most definitely.
guarantee the people, I mean, as soon as I heard what happened, it was like, I'm reaching out to you going, hey, I know that you can't really respond, but hey, I'm thinking about you. If you need anything, I'm here. And I'm on the other side of the world, so there's limited of what I can do, but at the same time, it's like I would figure it out, that's the difference.
Sometimes just picking up your phone and knowing somebody's there is a lifeline enough to go, okay, somebody cares.
Yes.
There's a really good book out there called Father Loss, and it doesn't apply to every man that had, not everybody's lost their father, but it's a really good read. And I read it years ago. It shifted my mindset because basically what the author did is he went around and traveled and he interviewed a whole bunch of different men that had lost their fathers, all at different ages. And he was able to extrapolate and put together a really good understanding of how men work psychologically and the different types of that. And one of those is a volcano, where we just pack it in, pack it in, pack it in, and eventually one day it's going to blow up. And when it blows up, it's big, it's hot, it's messy. But after we've done it, okay, the volcano blew up, and now we can deal with the aftermath, but it's going to take a little while to blow up again. And most men operate on that, whether that's in their relationships, their personal life, their own patterns that they see repeating. I've got repeating patterns in my life that I have finally just now, 39 years old, to say, hey, Josh, we're not repeating that pattern ever again. We're not loading up, we're not stuffing that back down in there and letting it blow up again.
Yeah. No, and it's so true. We all do it. I mean, and sometimes we're really good at it, and sometimes I will be honest, it is a necessity. Like you take the other weekend with my wife. I mean, what I should have done in hindsight is I should have messaged my buddy on the weekend and been like, dude, this is, but
Sure.
but you're so in the weeds, you don't even, I didn't even think about it. I was like, no, no, I'm good, I'm good. Like this isn't like I can hit. And then it hit me on Monday. I was like, oh yeah, not feeling great. And then Tuesday when I left the house and I was out of the environment, it was like, crap, no, this has actually nailed me like hard in a
Right.
way that and I mean, I'm very mentally attuned, done a lot of work. So that's that different side of things. How did you work through the after the embolism and the strokes and that and having to go through all the rehab? How did you from just being yourself, being a person, but also in a masculine way? Because when you're laid out in bed, it kind of takes when you go from being able to bike ride up the steepest, tallest hill and being the, strength and the protector and, holding that space at 6'5" to being bedridden and not being able to move the whole left side of your body. How did you work through that mentally wise? Like,
It was humbling. When you got to hit the nurse call button just to get a bedpan in there and you're dying in pain of more than, when you lose contact with your left hand, with your any part of your body for a given amount of time, things shift. One of the most intense parts of what I went through was having the intracranial pressure. That headache is the worst thing that you could ever imagine in your life. Your head's just trying to come off. And they can't give you anything for it. They can't give you an opiate. They can't give you anything strong because immediately when they do, you're going to become addicted because your brain's in that state of flux and it's trying to repair itself. So basically, they're handing you Tylenol and saying, hey, we know this is some of the worst pain a human can imagine, but we're here for you. What else? So
it's
that
like
was one of
it's
those where
like
you
giving
have
you a
to go
band-aid
in.
for a gunshot wound.
Oh yeah, like we're not even going to plug the hole. We're just going to halfway get you there. I'll say this, that one of the things that got me into that mindset was when I had lost weight, I would go into the gym. And at the time, I was a personal trainer. So I had access to the gym 24 hours a day. I'd go in there and get on a spin bike, shut the lights off in the room, and I'd ride, and I called it the pain cave. I'd ride and I would excise my own demons. I'd sweat it out, cry it out on a spin bike, just torture myself. At the time, I was riding a fat bike, a Surly Pugsley, 4-inch wide tires on, and it was single speed. I would go out there on Strava in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and start chasing road bike records on Strava, and I got some of them. I was one of the
Oh,
strongest riders out there. And I got to the point where I was craving the pain.
mm,
And that's a dangerous place to be, very. But it's also a place where you go, hey, at least I've experienced that. I know how to get through pain. And one of the things that riding a mountain bike taught me, and a true mountain bike, is that no hill lasts forever. Nothing can last forever. Eventually, this is going to break and I'm going to get a downhill.
yeah,
And that mindset carried over to me laying there in the hospital. In fact, I had them write up on the whiteboard at the foot of the bed. It said, delete excuses.
it's a great statement.
Yeah.
And,
So
and again, what you see every day is what you become. Yeah,
correct.
that's
So they'd have the med schedule up there and the date and the time, all of those things, but right next to it, delete excuses.
yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah. And it was a step-by-step process. The title of my book is Every Inch, Every Step. And my recovery process started with them after doing a cerebral angioplasty to restore some blood flow. And they started to get muscle and nerve twitch on the left-hand side. And in fact, my mom was there the first time I was able to squeeze a nurse's hand with my left hand. And the nurse kind of went, "Oh, great, you can do that." My mom almost burst out into tears and goes, "What? He could do that?" And so she put my mom's hand in my hand, and I was able to grab my mom's hand with my left hand, but then started to do these, just finger
Yeah.
taps. And I would lay awake at night because you can't sleep when you're in that much pain. You get spurts of sleep, and they're waking me up every 2 to 4 hours, give me oral medication. And I'd just do that. I'd do this, the finger taps, while box breathing. So I
Uh,
was giving myself a neuroplasticity exercise to count out a box breathe of 7 count until the alarms are going off that I'm not breathing right. And I'm doing finger taps. And I made it a game of survival. It was literally, how many times can I do this and focus on that? And that's a form of meditation. It's hey, I am in extreme pain, but I know how to get through it.
it's so amazing how you can use those tactical, how important actually the tactical tools that we learn that that I know you've learned from doing close protection work way in the past, and then and I've learned being law enforcement and close protection. Those tactical tools are so important along with that resilience of exercise. Exercise is
Yeah.
so humbling. It does not matter how good you get at exercise, it will always humble you somewhere.
And even in my story, when they were teaching me left from right, my brain wouldn't process left or right. So I would have to, I'd have to crawl, walk, run. And we talk about that in tactics, but it was quite literally, how do I identify my left-hand side versus my right-hand side? And how do I put my socks on again? How do I move myself around in bed so that I'm not getting sore? How do I shift my balance? And in the early time in the hospital, before some of the blood drained out of my brain, It was, hey, we're going to sit you up and you've got to sit up for a timed minute to get homeostasis so that you can have at least the balance to not fall back over in bed. Then we can sit on the edge of the bed. Then we can put your grippy socks on. Then we can bring the walker over for you. Then we can teach you how to put your feet on the floor. Then we can teach you where to put your hands on the walker. I mean, it was every single small piece of life to relearn left and right.
Did they walk you through what the whole process was going to be and then take you step by step, or did they just say, "Hey, today, like we're just working on this," and or did they give you the pathway to start with, and then so you knew where you were going to? Obviously, you know you're trying to walk again, but that it would just be
Right.
such a big thing that not knowing the steps, it's like that whole goal setting thing. You can set this
Right.
massive, amazing goal, but if you don't have this know the steps to get there, you'll just give up on it because it just is too big. Like it can be too big. Did they do that, or did you do that to yourself, or how did that kind of work?
And they did it a little bit, but a lot of it I did all just kind of I extrapolated that myself because my goal was to not take no for an answer. Hey, can you do this? And they were like, well, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to prove you wrong. And
We're so alike. I'm the same way. You tell me I can't do something, it's like, yeah,
yeah,
watch this.
watch this. They gave me exercise bands and taught me a few exercises to do with these stretchy bands. Well, here I am. I'm like, okay, well, I can figure this out even better than the way you told me to. So I tied the exercise bands to sides of the bed, the top of the bed, once I had enough dexterity to do so. So I'm talking about I was wrapping this stuff around the side of a hospital bed arm, and it takes me 30 minutes to tie a knot. But I was determined to make it happen, right? So the nurse walks in one day and I'm doing lat pull downs with the exercise band off the top of the hospital bed. And she looks at me, she goes, are you okay? I was like, yeah, better than ever. She goes, I've never seen that before. I was like, well, I've never been in the hospital before. But like, we're getting out of here. So they gave me tools and I just started taking them to the zenith and like, hey, how do I work a chest muscle while I'm laying in bed? So I'm tying the exercise band to the left hand side of the bed, and I've got my right arm and I'm grabbing
Doing
my left.
flies.
Yeah, and I'm trying to do flies. I'm like, I'm just going to teach it the motion again. All right, here we go. I'm pulling all the resistance with the right side, but I'm teaching myself again. And so I didn't take no for an answer. And in fact, the day that we talk about these days that just things click, I had gotten so frustrated of laying in bed that one of the nurse's aides came in and there's a bed alarm. I had this big yellow wristband on that says fall risk, and that's a they don't want you out of bed alone and all of those things. I said, hey, I'm just going to use the walker and go to the restroom, which was 3 steps in this tiny little room. And so she goes, okay. She turns the bed alarm off. So I do. I use the walker. I hit the restroom. I come back to the bed. I get underneath the bed and I get all of the clothes that had transported with me to the hospital. And I got myself dressed. I brushed my teeth. I put my shirt on, my pants on, my socks on. It took me half an hour to tie my shoes, but I didn't care. I got completely dressed. I took a picture of myself in the mirror. They had given me my cell phone back at this point. I start sending pictures to people like, hey, I got myself dressed because I just hit that breaking point of I'm not going to just lay here in a hospital gown and try to figure out these snaps and it's open in the back. Screw this. I got myself dressed and the nurse comes in and now I'm sitting in the recliner. I've got my laptop open. I'm not in the bed in a gown. I'm fully dressed and I'm sitting on the laptop and her jaw just goes, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm better than ever. And she just runs. She runs to the nurse's station, comes back and goes, we gotta, starts taking vitals again and doing all this stuff. And that was the genesis of when the doctors started coming in. They're like, okay, this guy, we're not gonna send you to rehab. And most ruptured aneurysms spend an extended time, 6 to 8 weeks in outpatient or inpatient rehab, where they go from the hospital to a rehab facility and then to home.
It's interesting, listening to you, and you have this, I'm not wasting time, but also, that, and I can relate to it, that I'm not taking no for an answer, but it's more of this resilience of, I've done hard shit in the past. This isn't going to define me.
That's it. Oh yeah. And so I was released from the hospital after 37 days and
Wow.
went immediately home.
Let's remind
And
the
client,
audience, you were on the floor for what, 36 hours, was it?
so I was 37 years old when it happened. I was on the floor for 37 hours with an active brain bleed, complete left side paralysis. When I got to the hospital, I had a 90% chance of death. They didn't know if I'd live. They put two stents in my brain, holding everything together, 17 brain surgeries, 2 weeks in the ICU, spent 37 total days in the in the hospital, and was released directly to home. And when I got home, I climbed 2 flights of stairs and immediately confronted the spot in my kitchen where I almost died.
Speechless. Yep. I want to go. I want to shift the conversation for a second. Hardest moments during that where you lost all of that. Where did you have any moments where you're like those breakdown moments where us men don't talk about it? We talk about these
Yeah.
good things. Oh, yeah, I powered through it.
Yeah.
37 days in the hospital. I made it. All these different, strength side of things. Talk to me about the low points.
Sitting on my cell phone, middle of the night, and researching wheelchairs because I didn't know if I'd ever walk again. What kind of wheelchair do I want? What kind of wheelchair access can I get for an apartment? And in fact, I almost moved apartments to a ground floor apartment. We thought that I'd be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, or at least for an extended amount of time. We had already started the transition to get me into an ADA approved, first floor, all of these things. And that was, it was a realization, especially knowing what my father went through and seeing him in a wheelchair for so many years, being a double amputee. He eventually lost both of his legs above the knee. So I knew exactly what the
What's
wheelchair
coming?
life looked like. I knew what was in store for me. So there was many nights where I would lay awake at night and cry for the life that was taken from me and hit that rock bottom because I thought I had it figured out. 37 years old, man, you were ripping, running, like you were.
I remember us talking about it, like not like it would have been the couple. It was actually a couple days before that happened that I remember when you and I were messaging. And you're like, "Yeah, I'm getting." You had some stress going, but you went through a stage where you were extremely stressed out with work and everything. And you
Yeah.
know, you and I had talked about me coming over, taking over your position because you were going to move somewhere else, and then you're like, I'm
Yeah.
super stressed out, got so much stuff going on. Not, I'm making a change, I'm shifting. You had started that whole shift of change of everything, and
Oh, yeah.
you were training hard, you were having, you were doing that, and then in a moment's notice, it was all, yeah. I can only
It
imagine.
was
Like,
gone.
how did you
Yeah.
not let that overwhelm you? Like, how did that not completely overtake everything, and you just give up? Because to be honest, they told you in the hospital.
Two sayings that I learned in Bible college stuck with me pretty hard, and some great music. I'll say that. There's some lyrics that just rang in my head over and over again. And one of them was a song, Chance Pena. I think he's a Canadian artist. He's got a song called Sleep Deprivation. And I was going through a lot of sleep deprivation. And that song's got some lyrics in it that I was able to help hold on to, like just get through each night and wait for the morning.
Yeah.
But two sayings that I have held on to since going through seminary, Bible college, were this one. Number one was cut quit out of your dictionary. Like it's not even a word. We're not gonna, that's not an option. And the other one was when you get to the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. Like just whatever it takes. We're not gonna quit. We're gonna, even I'm at the end of the rope, and it's okay to admit that. It's okay to say, hey, I am at my wit's end. I have no other strength left other than to lay here and to give it all up and to cry for what I thought I had and what I lost. But I'll say this, that shifting my focus from myself back towards God was an amazing shift for me. Thinking that I had it all figured out and then watching a spiritual battle take place for my mortal soul, that was a big shift. Probably the biggest.
Tell me more about that.
So, a good friend of mine, as soon as we talk about brothers that will drop everything in a moment's notice, good friend of mine, Bo, who I've known for many years, he lives out in Oklahoma. As soon as he heard that I had gone down, he got in his truck and he drove through the night to come see me. Missed his son's birthday, just, he made it happen, right? He got to that hospital room, and when he got to that hospital room, he just started praying. He started quoting scripture and he started praying. And I won't take his story away from him, but he experienced a spiritual battle beyond anything that he had ever seen as a Marine. So much so that it took him many months for him to even recount it to me and tell me about it. It scarred him. It gave him PTSD from watching and feeling that spiritual battle take place. And what I witnessed was who I believed to be Michael, the archangel. stand over me, big giant flaming sword. And as the demons crawled out of hell, from which I could feel the heat,
Mm.
he would just swing that big sword like a pendulum, almost aloof, like, hey, I got this. You're going to see this. This is scary, but this is what's going on. And he protected me. And I fully believe that the way I was living my life at that time, the way I was chasing myself around in circles and repeating the same patterns over again and living a life that was not right for any man. But God gave me a second chance.
I'm glad for it, man. I'm so glad you're still here. I can't wait. Honestly, I can't wait to be coming back to Arizona or some area that we can meet up again. How
Oh
did
yeah.
that, you said it shifted you in that. How has it shifted you from that as a man, masculine man, which, we both are. Definitely, knowing you for the brief time that I have can full on see it. How has it shifted you in your masculinity since this
So the
experience?
biggest shift for me went from it's never enough. I always want more. I'm craving the pain. I'm going to be destructive to myself. My second book that I'll put out will be entitled Destructive Talent. That'll give you just a window into that world. So I went from chasing everything I could, it's never enough. I always want more, to now it's gratitude. When my
Mm,
feet hit the floor every morning, I'm thankful that I can stand up without a walker. I'm thankful that I still have my voice. I'm thankful that I can walk outside and see the sunshine, and not just being thankful for it, but the experience of humble gratitude. Like there is something bigger than me that I am working for, towards, and experiencing, that although I felt like I was the end all be all, I felt like I was the shit. I was the coolest thing out there, right? But to humble yourself and know that there is more than just this life and the exercise and futility at times that we as men chase what's next. And if, without that, that's a double-edged sword. Without that masculine energy to chase what's next, I would have not gotten out of that bed. But that's where we also have to find that balance. Where is that balance of taking it too far?
And it's also, I guess, the perspective and the focus we put behind it as well. That's what I'm
Oh,
hearing.
yeah,
You've shifted. Like you still have that fight, that chase, that you want greatness, but you're striving for greatness through gratitude instead of through scarcity. Oh my God,
that's it.
I'm never gonna have any of this. I want this because I'm grateful for the life that I have and what I can now contribute, what I can now give to myself and also to others.
And it's been an amazingly hard exercise. So 37 days in the hospital is 5 weeks. When I got home from the hospital, I already had overdue medical bills. So welcome back to your second chance at life. You're overdue. So it's one of those, yeah, I got miracles on one hand. Hey, welcome back to life. You can live, you can breathe, you can talk, you can walk, but pay up, sucker. And
How'd you
it's immediately
how'd you deal with that? Because I know in the U.S., like here in New Zealand, I mean we're great. If that happened to me, let's put it. I'll put this into perspective for you. And this is probably one reason I haven't actually pulled the pin and actually got my wife a green card and moved over there. It actually is one of the reasons that I struggle with. If your situation happened to me, I wouldn't have one bill at all. Might have to pay for the ambulance, which is probably about $90.
yeah, I'll trade you. In honesty, it became one of those things. For a time I had to set that aside. And when I think about life and the moves that we make, sometimes it's okay to say, hey, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call every person that I now owe money to. I'm going to send every email I can. I'm going to say, this is the situation. I'm going to work out the payment plan, and I'm going to put that. And for me, it was almost like making an investment portfolio. I mean, I've got a binder for it all. And hey, this one's this and this one's this, and I was able to negotiate here and there, but without getting too far into the weeds there, it just became another tool for me to recover, because
Mm,
my brain didn't like Excel spreadsheets. It didn't like my phone. I didn't like looking at screens. It was just overwhelming.
yeah.
So for me, it was like, okay, and I'll be absolutely honest. Previous to this, I was never the most organized man, right? I took paper notes a lot and had a paper calendar, and hey, where'd that sticky note go kind of thing. And if I lose my notebook, that's a bad day. It drove me to be a lot more organized in my personal life, which then was an exercise for me to use everywhere else. It really, I took life gave me lemons and I started making lemonade and selling it. It was one of those things that I just had to use that as an opportunity to reteach myself and to get better organized. So now I'm more organized than ever. And now I'm more capable than ever. And it's an amazing thing that I've experienced that when you set that in front of yourself, again, those life-changing moments where you say, okay, buddy, you got to figure this out. When I first got back from the hospital, it was an anxiety-ridden mess for me to separate the pills that I was on into a daily pill box and get the right count. And am I taking the right pills at the right time and setting that schedule for myself? But that's where it started, was just to rebuild my rhythm, to rebuild my routine, to rebuild my circadian rhythm, to be able to, hey, this is what time you go to bed, big man, and stick to that. And when you get out of bed, you make your bed. And getting back to those things helps set. So all of those things played in, whether it was medical bills or medication or setting my own schedule again. It was all to rebuild that life literally from the ground up.
Did you have any times, and I think I already know the answer to this, but I want to hear it verbally. Did you have any times where you had to ask for help, and how did it make you feel asking for help after you got out of the hospital?
Oh yeah, I had to ask for help. And it almost felt easier because I had an excuse to lean on, but it still didn't make it feel great. It was one of those I can almost allow myself to ask for help because I have an excuse. But what I've learned is that if we ask before we really get so far down the rabbit hole that you got to call in an excavator, it's way easier than waiting until we're buried.
You get through whatever you need help for a lot faster.
Oh yeah. Many hands make light work. And that has become a mentality of like, and even when I was relearning how to stand, they'd wrap the PT belt around me and several people would be in the room, because big guy goes down. I'm not easy to pick up off of a cold hospital floor, right? So many hands make light work. And I've learned that in a lot of different ways, like, hey, you're not an island. You're not the lone wolf. You can reach out for help. And by the way, when you do, a different perspective on things often is very clarifying.
Very, very true. I want to shift the conversation for a second because I think it was around the time that you went down. You were in a relationship, and then I remember you saying that that relationship got really good. I don't know what's happened since then. I'd love to hear like what's going on with relationship wise because it ties so much into that masculinity side. Especially, it's so this day and age, the more I do these conversations and the more I obviously then social media starts to throw more and more things at me. And also I'm watching more and more podcasts around men and masculinity. And then it comes into our age actually it's so hard for relationships to be found. I'm lucky. I am still married to the love of my life. We met when I was 20 and I'm still with her. We've gone through some really hard stuff. She's really stubborn, and I'm very, very grateful for that side. She's so stubborn that she's still with me after I was such a horrible dickhead as I left the police force. But she saw that it wasn't me. Long story, I've said it many a times. I believe I've told you the whole story
Yeah.
when we met. I'm lucky enough to have her. I don't have to go through. I don't know what I would do if she and I split up when it comes to relationship. Like, and I've got a best friend who is, what is she, 8 weeks older than me, and she struggles to find a good man.
Yeah.
And she is an amazing woman. I mean, she stands on her own 2 feet, doesn't need a man, which is probably the problem.
Right.
But
Well,
tell me a little bit about what's going on relationship wise at the moment, man. Or like
well,
through that journey, if you're open to it.
yeah. Well, we'll start with this. Two divorces in my life, both of them previous to me having a ruptured brain aneurysm. So we can extrapolate a little bit of stress there.
Yeah. Wait,
Since
before we carry on, because I know that you're going to take it somewhere. Those two divorces, mutual decision for split, or was there a person, a side that was more leaning towards like they fucked up slash they didn't know who they like? Tell me a little bit about that situation.
both of them are absolutely 100% my fault. Ultimate accountability.
Why?
Going back to that idea that I was chasing the next and I didn't know how to control myself. I was burying pain by chasing women.
So that toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I went from 362 pounds to, hey, this guy's 235, 6'5", can grow a beard, has a bass voice, and look what I can do.
And confident. That's the big
Oh,
key
yeah.
one there. Yeah,
Oh,
confident.
yeah. Exactly. Walk into a room and knowing that, hey, I can have almost anything I want now. And that hadn't been the case in my life. So I
Yeah.
started chasing women, and both of those divorces were because of my indiscretion, my weakness, thinking that I was doing, hey, I'm going to do me. I'm going to live it up for me. I'm going to go out there and do, hey, if it feels good, do it. Trust me, that is not the life. If you've got the power, the know-how, and the capability, it is a strong man that knows those things but can control
And
them.
shifts them. Like I know I'm the same way. I have like not gonna, don't want to float my ego or anything, but again, I've had women that are like, oh, if I could only find a man like you, and like, and so you get those kind of things of like, oh yeah. But again,
Right.
it's where you put your focus is what you get. I say this, I've had some friends that have gone through relationship stuff, and I'm like, the grass is not greener on the other side. The grass is greenest where you water it.
That's it. So currently, I am in the midst of not making the same wrong decisions again. I have set some pretty strong boundaries from what I'm willing to do and willing to tolerate, not just from other people, but especially from myself. Hey, you know what's right and wrong. Don't let yourself even crack that door towards walking down that path because you know where it leads. So just because you got the miracle recovery and again, not to float my own boat, but let's do this again, like you say, hey, you looking at me and you wouldn't know what I went through. You imagine telling that story to any woman you want. Here's this guy. Now he's got the amazing medical story. Let's, bend the ear and get some empathy. And yeah, so all of
And
those things.
and he's open to talking about the challenges that he went through, which most men don't do.
Right. Yeah.
When I tell my story about policing, it's the same thing. You watch everybody in the room, like you become the magnet of everybody,
Right.
men and women. Like they all are looking at you like, "Oh my God," like, and I'm like, I don't want to tell this story again because I don't want to be the center of attention in this room. It's not about me.
Yeah. And it has become that shift for me. Currently, relationship status is working really hard to understand myself, my own patterns, my own diversities, where I am headed, and not making the same mistakes a third time. And
Hmm.
like I said, what I'm willing to tolerate from myself and where I am, that's the most important thing. Now, if that happens to align with somebody in the future, or even those that are around and, you know, in the reaches of my life currently, so be it. But I'm not trying to forge a relationship out of angst or out of hurry or out of need because I've got to make sure that I am the strong role model for myself before I can give that to anybody else.
So with that, are you actively looking for an intimate relationship, or are you just, or have you put that to the side of your brain currently?
It is not the focus of, but as a man, it's always something in your brain where you're like, hey, if the right opportunity presents itself, and we're all opportunistic, we are, and when it comes back to our life stories, we're hunters, we are seekers, and we are looking for those things, but we have to be able to throttle that response. A good man is capable of a lot of things, but that doesn't mean he should exercise all of them all the time.
Yes, very, very, very true. Do you ever worry that you'll struggle to find a woman that matches up with you?
Oh yeah.
Can
Oh
you tell
yeah.
me more about that? Because again, it's not an experience that I live. So, but I know that it is a monster of an experience that so many men as well as women struggle with, but we're talking about men here.
Right. Man, I hate to get ultra deep in the weeds and personal in this, so I'm trying to extrapolate at a
I'm fine with you going deep if you want to, but you don't, I'm not saying that you have to.
one of my previous relationships, in fact, my first marriage. I got to a point where I was really frustrated. And I know I'll say this and I'll put it out there. My first wife, she's a great mother. She did everything that she could for those kids, right? She still does. But I got to the point where I realized that it was an extreme mismatch, that we were not on the same wavelength mentally, emotionally, and intellectually. None of those things were the correct match for where I wanted to go in life. And so finding that wasn't just, hey, when my life changed, when I changed my life and went from morbid obesity to endurance athlete, her view of me really changed. This wasn't the same man that she married, and I don't blame her for that. I was a completely different, driven individual and then started chasing other things. But I do worry. I do worry about finding someone that can mesh into that because I'll just be honest, Chris, I'm hard to handle.
Any
I
driven
am,
man is hard to handle.
yeah. And to dive into that, I'm also emotional. There's
Mm.
things that have happened now in my life, and with the brain chemistry the way it even still is for me, I'm more emotional than I've ever been. So, if physical emotion happens to me in a way that it has never happened to me, even during this conversation now, and instead of just like, oh, I'm feeling a little bit of sadness, or I'm feeling a little bit of remorse, or I'm feeling that comes out physically. I physically start to tremble now because of
Mm.
the brain injuries that I've endured. So my brain processes things in a much different aspect. And on the outside, again, it's that same thing of, hey, that guy looks totally fine on the outside. On the inside, he is going through absolute turmoil and hell just to present that he's okay on the outside. So finding a partner that could understand that and be strong enough to cope with that,
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah.
lot to ask for.
It is, and I'll full on agree with that. If my wife hadn't gone through if we hadn't gone through the journey together that we have, finding a
Yeah.
version of her would be, I feel, is she's a unicorn. But yeah, and I want to real quick, thank you and appreciate you just saying that because I've seen it while we've been interviewing. I'm like, this is a different Josh. Like seeing you get emotional, seeing you like, I mean, we didn't really have opportunity when we were sitting there trying to mock save lives, but at the same time, like it's I can see it. So I want to say I appreciate you. And thanks for opening up about that, and also thanks for opening up all the different things that you have so far today with us, because
It
again,
is.
it builds our bond as well, bigger
It's
also.
kind of the scariest thing. I'll say this, one of my favorite quotes recently is this, that fear is a mile wide, but it's only an inch deep. And it's taking that first step into even talking about things, even that, okay, I'm going to talk about this. This seems really scary. That's a long way. And then you step in, you go, all right, I can handle this. I
Yeah.
can wade through this. I can get through this. And it's that same thing of taking that first step is always the hardest for us
Yeah.
guys because we never want to admit that we're nervous to do something. We're just going to show up and do it like we've been doing it for the last 20 years, but that's not always possible.
I will tell you because I've gone through this, a version of where you're at. I won't say what you have because I haven't had, the experience that you have, but with that, talking about my stuff and feeling my emotions, and I'm a very emotional guy, always have been, and I've always kind of tried to push them away, especially as a cop. I would try and squish them away and
Yeah.
not feel them, and anger would always come out, is was my go-to emotion. And I used to always say, I have an anger problem, but I've got it under control. Now I don't feel like I have. This experience the last couple of weeks has been a perfect example. I would feel that anger start to come in, and I would let it come out as the emotion that it actually needed to. It might have been sadness. It was hopelessness, is what it actually was. It was a lot of
Right.
hopelessness. And what I will say is, you're doing the right things by talking about it and actually feeling it. I remember having a coach once that I was going through stuff, and I was trying to shift everything. It was about the time we met, or just after that. And I was like, I want to create more calm in my life. I think this will relate to you. I want to create more calm in my life instead of chaos. And in our backgrounds, chaos, we thrive in it. And I would say
Yeah.
I thrive in chaos. Like my wife will still to this day, she's like, if shit is going wrong, I was doing a personality test the other night because she wanted to know what my Myers-Briggs personality type is, because we had done it in the past, but we wanted to kind of see where exact she and I are the same. But we're doing it, and it had a thing of, what was the question? It was something along the lines of like, in chaos, like how do you like do you are you the calm within like the storm type thing? And she saw it over
Mhm.
my shoulder. She was cooking dinner and she saw it over my shoulder and she's like, "Oh my God, yes." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, But I was trying to create more calm in my life. And this coach turns to me and she goes, "Chris, we're talking about something that happened. I can't remember what it was, but she's like, Chris, have you ever let yourself actually go through that? Like feel what you were feeling?" I was like, "Oh yeah, here and there, kind of, yeah, do it." And she's like, "Chris, now it's going to take a while to work through this." But she said, when you first experience it, if you let yourself take 90 seconds, if you let yourself take 90 seconds to actually feel it fully feel it for 90 seconds, it won't come back. You'll
Okay.
go through it. And this was something that like this last week I really leaned into. I was like, it's just going to take 90 seconds and it's okay.
Yeah. And I see that almost like setting the same idea that we're going to set the goal. Hey, I'm
Mm,
going to set the goal. The goal is I'm going to go through this for 90 seconds and nothing lasts forever. So
mm.
this is what I'm going to dedicate myself for the next 90 seconds. I'm going to feel this as much as I can feel this.
Yeah, and then a version of it will come back. Because you won't ever fully, you're a new person after that feeling. But it's amazing now, and using that, that has stuck with me probably the most out of all the conversations that I had with her because I've had my grandma pass away. I've had
Yeah.
situations with my wife. I've had work situations. I've had all these different things that have kind of happened that life give you. And I'm like, cool, 90 seconds. Just let yourself feel this stuff for 90 seconds and it'll be better in a year. And so my grandma passing away was a big one because she pretty much raised me when I was a kid. Well, my mom was working, my mom and dad were both working so much. And yeah, like I was like, this is only a moment in time. Let yourself feel these.
It's an amazing process when we can be the calm in the storm, and that reminded me of a time in my life. It was a Memorial Day weekend. It was during my first marriage, and my then wife's uncle passed away. And I got the phone call on Memorial Day. So all the family's over there. There's food in the oven. There's food on the grill, and you get a phone call, and that family just collapsed. Right? They're
Yeah.
crying. They're trying to find their own peace with it, and I took over. Here we go. I'm going to make sure the food in the oven doesn't burn. I'm going to make sure the grill doesn't catch fire. I was the
You
guy
were
that
the
held
man,
it
you were
all.
the man in this situation. You stepped into your
Right.
masculinity right there. You became the protector and the provider.
Correct. And then even later on in life, that was used against me that I was cold and heartless, but it was just my default was to be the calm in the storm. But on the flip side of that, I could be the entire storm, the
Yep.
entire whole thing. So it's like,
Yin
yeah,
and
you can be,
yangs, brother. Yin and yangs. Like
yeah,
we are the
or I
exact.
can be the whole thing. Like,
I can cause all the chaos if I
oh
don't
yeah,
like, yeah, yeah,
go scourge earth, or I can be the protector. I've got that switch.
yeah. It's crazy. Like, so how are things now, brother? Like, how are things at the moment going for you? What's anything else new? Like, obviously you've got a book that's coming out soon. I've seen that. I'm not gonna promise that I'll read it because I'm not a reader. So it comes out on
Dude,
audiobook
a
or
lot of
I'll
people.
let you read it to me, brother. I'll let you read it to me.
Yeah. Well, and that's the number one request I get is that when's the audio version coming? So that'll be the next project once I get that manuscript uploaded to Kindle, and so it's available pre-orders on Amazon KDP. So you can get it on your Kindle. It'll be available in a paperback as well. My goal with the book is to help people, to be an encouragement, but it's not so much as, I wrote it for me. I wrote it to go through what I needed to go through. And like you were just saying, 90 seconds. I've been doing it for a lot longer than that, writing a book. But once I can move through those things and they're written down, it's like, okay, I can close a chapter physically and then move on to some things in my life. So right now I'm in a growth mindset. I'm really in a place where I'm taking on more than ever. When I went down, I had one income source, one outside sales rep commission source. I now have three. I've
Here's a
tripled.
question. I know how stressed you were prior to you going down in
Yeah.
some ways, and you were working through that with one income, one source. How are you now versus then? Because this is so true for so many men. Like we take on so much stuff. And so I'm curious, how are you now? You seem calmer, but how are you now with having those three, having your brain stretched in three different directions versus just one? And what's different? Like, how have you managed this versus before?
I've got a purpose now.
What is
I've
that
got a,
purpose?
it's not me anymore. It's to help others. And I think to true masculinity doesn't just come from me being able to stand on the top of the heap and saying I'm the best. It comes from me being able to stand at the top of the heap and saying I brought others with me.
Bruce, that contribution
So
aspect.
my the title of my book, Every Inch, Every Step, has become my mantra. When it gets hard, I go, okay, 1 inch at a time.
Do you do
One
that?
inch.
Do you sit there and actually do that when things start to get crazy?
Yeah, I will. It's a self-soothing. It's just a 1 inch at a time, every day, every inch, every step. Because quite literally, still, I can walk outside right now, and if I'm going to step down a curb, I have to think about it. Which
Yeah.
foot am I leading with? Going upstairs, I can carry a 5 gallon water jug upstairs, no problem. Leaning forward, we're going just fine. Coming downstairs, I'm grandpa. I still have to hold a handrail. So it is and not hold, not grip, but I can just use
Stabilize
it.
yourself.
Yeah, I need to
Just
have
have
it
it there.
there. But I'm definitely not hiking in flip-flops like I was previously. It is a detailed mindset that says I have to lay out a path for me. I have to know where that path is going. I've got to be a little bit more careful, a lot of bit more careful. And because of that, it keeps me on a better path. It doesn't allow me to stray as far, either mentally, physically, or emotionally. I can keep those things in check. It's really brought in the guardrails, if you will. It reined me in.
Yeah. Humbles you, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely it does. We are all failable and we will fail ourselves. It's how we recover from that. It's
Mhm.
not how many times we fall, how many times we get back up.
Dead true. Dead true. Everybody wants to stay standing all the time. And it's actually when you fall down that you learn the most.
Yeah,
Literally in
37
your
hours,
case.
bone deep, permanent scars. And on my left foot, my right elbow from being incapacitated on the floor and having that pressure point eat into me. So I've got scars that will last a lifetime as reminders of what I went through. Helpless. I was
Yeah.
I was prepared to die. In an altered mental state, looking at myself in the floor length mirror in the hallway of my place that was leaned against the wall, seeing one pupil dilated, one pupil pinpoint, knowing that that's bad, and not being able to mentally focus enough to do something about it. Crawling and dragging myself into the bathroom where the big fluffy rugs were and covering myself up for warmth as the cold floor sucked all my body heat out and preparing to die on a bathroom floor because my voice wouldn't work and I couldn't make enough noise and I couldn't move my body to get anybody's attention. And my cell phone was who knows where. So when you've gone all the way down to this is where I die, and you wake up and you can't move half of you, you go, okay, well, it's better than where I thought I was.
Mm.
We're doing better than yesterday, every inch, every step.
Yep. When you hit the man, I honestly can't imagine because I've never experienced anything like it. I can only,
And
yeah, I can
even
only.
recounting it, it's surreal. I know it's my life. It's my life story now, and I've told it several times. And every time I tell it, I go,
What I love though, Josh, is so many times like this happens and it becomes your new identity, and I don't see that with you. It's not it has shifted your identity slightly in a very strong, powerful, positive way. It's a way of cool. Now, again, like you said, your purpose is to help people, which I want to dive into in a second, but it is shifted to cool. How do I use this experience to better not just my life through the challenges that I have gone through and continuously go through, but how do I help others? Just like Brandon, I guess that's why, the three of us are fairly close together. You guys have experienced way more than I have, but we all connect extremely well. Yeah, man, like it's amazing. I don't know where I was really going, but it's just more of I just wanted to say like how amazing that is to see that it hasn't defined you in a you see other people that go through similar-ish things, and it defines them in a not so great way, whereas it's defined you in a way of in a negative way, again, like you said, growth way, in a cool. I'm going to
the first
use
thing
this to
I
help people.
the first thing I started to do was look around for support groups. So you in the world of social media. So I get on there and there's, the brain aneurysm survivors Facebook page and this and that and stroke warriors and so many of those people, you start looking for the things that we do as humans. Like, okay, is there cool t-shirts that talk about my story? Is there wristbands? Is there this, that, and the other? And it's like, then you're seeing the stuff that says my brain tried to kill me, but I survived anyway. And
I've seen some of those.
a lot of it's got a negative context. You're like they start hating on the experience rather than growing from the experience, and it defines them in a negative way. And I'm extremely blessed. I'm extremely lucky that my experience was not that I'm in a wheelchair or need assistance for the rest of my life. So in those ways, I get to see it in a different lens where I am not trapped in a mental state where I need constant care and help.
Or a
But on
physical state, the physical state that then causes the mental
right,
state.
correct. And I've been able to rise above that and look at the positive side of things. And even then in doing so, that becomes helping others. And whether that's the young man along the way that is just starting to experience life, there's a lot of life lived in this guy at 39 years old to lose a father, two marriages. I've got four kids have gone through a near-death experience and lived in several different states. And I look at my life, and anytime I start to recount my life story, most people just start to cock their head to the side and go, "What? Okay." Like, you want to talk about the time I met a grizzly bear, or do you want to talk about the time I almost died? Do you want to talk about divorce? Do you want to talk about getting in shape as a man? Do you want to talk about, you know, natural health? What do you want to talk about? Like, we can go down a lot of different
You become the
things.
center of every party.
I've got a lot of stories to tell, and it has become a part of my life that I've been told a few times that I am the storyteller. And one of the good things that I did get from going through some therapy was that I'm not the athlete. I'm not the Olympic, mountain bike rider. That my true talent is not found on a bike or in a gym. It's actually in communication. And when you look at, literally a past life for me, where I spent 7 years as a pastor, pastoring a Baptist church and teaching from the Bible and preaching Sunday school since I was 15 years old, and going through all of those things and becoming the head pastor of a church at 23 years old. That's a life story that wraps in a lot of things from a lot of different aspects. I can speak to a lot of different people, whether it be from loss to gratitude to excitement to adventure to helping them in any way that I possibly can. And I do see that now as the big part of my role in life, to help others. I can relate to a lot of different people.
Going back to that helping others and that purpose drive, what is it that you want to help others with? Like if you went deeper, if you want to layer deeper than just wanting to help other people, what is it that you want to help others with?
I want to help them with what's going to make a difference in their life and finding what will make a difference in their life.
So the
There are
finding.
so many different self-help books out there and so many different topics and so many different public speakers, but really to be able to help somebody, you got to figure out where they need help. You got to diagnose it first. You got to name it. You have to know where you need to dig in. And given all that I've been through, I think I've got a decent understanding that could help a lot of different people say, hey, that's probably where you need to start. You may be focused on such and such, but that's probably not where you need to be. And to be a guide to find where they need to start.
And why is that so important to you?
Because I wish I had it.
At what stage of your life?
All of them, every step. I wish I would have listened. I wish I would have taken more time to reach out to people. I wish I would have taken more people aside and heard more stories. I wish I would have had me when I was 17. So if I find those people in life, if they come my way, if they're inserted into my life, and I get a chance to help somebody that's been where I've already been, that gives me a true sense of fulfillment.
I love it, man.
Like, hey, I've walked that path and I walked it alone. I walked that path with a dim lantern. But let me show you the way.
Yeah, here's a bright one. Let's just come with me. Just a little tiny
Yeah.
veer. Just a little tiny
Yeah.
one. Not a huge one, just a little tiny one.
Yeah, stay behind me. I got this.
Yeah.
Let me show you the way so that the next time you find yourself on the same dark path, you've been through it with me.
Mm.
A mentor. I got
Yeah, so true. Something came up to me while we are kind of this last few minutes that I wanted to ask if you thought it had any impact. Do you think that one of the reasons that now you kind of this shift of mentality, the shift of focus, I guess, of really, really leaning into that wanting to help people, you wanted to before you went down, but really wanting to help people and help them find this thing that will help them shift the most, and also being able to tell this story and even just the drive of all of what's happened since you went down. Do you think it has anything to do with the people that you were surrounding yourself with prior to going down?
I think everything weighs in some kind of balance, right? Most of the people that I knew before I went down, I still know. And some of those relationships have shifted drastically. Some have remained somewhat stagnant. But I know that through this, I'm the one going through the change. and I don't necessarily expect others to change.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard thing to realize as a man. You're like, hey, I can affect change in my life. I can, I can go to the gym and I can gain more muscle and I can become a bigger man and I can lift more and I can work through my own mental demons and I can come out the other side. But that doesn't mean that other people are capable of doing so. And I can't hold them to that standard. And it's a deeper realization to know that, hey, I'm on this journey and I would love to help others on this journey, but not all the time are they capable of coming along with me.
Do you think that part of obviously, lots of life experiences helped you through the whole situation, but also like the thing that pops into my head is, having yourself surrounded with like guys like Brandon who have hit
Yeah.
that rock bottom, who have hit pretty much exactly like not exactly because it was a different situation, him having a cardiac arrest, but he was bedridden, had to bring completely, rebuild himself, went from SWAT level to not bedridden like yourself. Do you think that had any impact and assistance mentally wise? I know he was there physically wise, he and I would connect and he would give me updates when in the early days. Do you think that that's had anything to play with in that kind of that, oh, if he can do it, I can do it?
Is huge. I met Brandon years before this happened to me.
Yeah.
So having Brandon in my wheelhouse and having Brandon in my life and then having this happen to me, like, okay, there is that guide. There is somebody that we can sit down and go, hey, bro, like I'm experiencing this today, and you're probably the only other person on the fucking
That
that
that has
understand.
done.
And so him and I have shared several conversations without, violating any kind of trust there, where we're like, man, today's just one of the hardest days I've ever experienced, and it's this many years later, and you still have that camaraderie of a friend that's gone through it. It's a battle buddy. So somebody that you can just look at with that eye contact, man to man, and say, hey, I get it. You don't even have to say anything, buddy. I get it. I see it. I understand.
Yeah.
And it's a huge thing of surrounding yourself with the right people is one of the best decisions that you'll ever make in your life, especially as a man. And you've heard this before, you're going to become the average of the five people you spend the most time with. And that is a choice that we all make. I preached well over 1,000 sermons in my time as a pastor and taught people how to make those decisions. Your sphere of influence. I've got long arms, but I can only influence the things in which I can reach. If I can reach out and touch it, I can make it move. If I use my feet, I can make a lot more move. But that sphere of influence is a choice, and who we keep in it can define our lives. And in fact, it will define our lives of who we allow to be the near and dear ones to us, and who we trust with our secrets, and who we trust with our emotions, and who we trust when we're having the hardest times. So surrounding ourselves with the right people, it goes back to the conversation that you probably heard your parents have with you when you were a kid, like, hey, choose your friends carefully. Like, it's very, very true.
In all aspects of life, both for our mental health, our physical health, but then also even for our financial health.
Oh, yeah.
I was watching a Diary of a CEO podcast. My wife and I watched it last night with Kevin Hart, the new one that he just did with Kevin Hart. I don't know if you follow Steven from Diary of a CEO or any of his podcasts. Amazing podcast. The conversations that he has with people is all sorts of different things, not even just business, but around
Sure.
masculinity, around all these different things. He has that platform now, but he was like with Kevin Hart, and that's what Kevin was talking about. He actually mentioned it. He's like, being able to get into the rooms with the people that then he's like, he's able to use his influence of what he's done with comedy to then be able to get into those rooms. But he's like, then once you're in those rooms with those people, then you start to actually he's like, be the dumbest person in the room, pretty much. Is, he didn't say those exact things, but it's like always try and be the dumbest person in the room, and then ask how people got to that stage. Ask those questions and ask those dumb questions of how did you do it, why did you do it, what happened, and this is why I love doing podcasts with, because I've learned things today from you, because I'm like, fuck yeah, I didn't even realize, like, you don't even think about these things. And so yeah, so it's those things, but it's always doing that. You know that's why I cherish our friendship, even though we only met for, what was it, 8 hours?
Yeah, it was a day of hard training.
A day of hard training, and you and I were buddied up together because we were the two big guys. So Brandon put the two of us together.
The Sasquatches go over there.
Yeah, literally, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure he said
not the
that exact.
brand.
Yeah, yeah. And so, and we just connected straight off. And look at this. Like, what is it, 2, 3 years later?
Yeah.
We still connect, and there's just that connection, but it's because we have similar values, because we both are in that growth side, we have commonalities, but also we're both good people. And that's the reason, like Brandon, from get-go, from the moment that I met him, we met on a podcast like this. Somebody was like, "Oh, you should talk to this guy. He's got a good story." And he and I connected. I came to Arizona. He's like, "Chris, I'm going to put you in touch with this police department. In fact, actually, I'm going to come drive the opposite direction across town, pick you up, and take you with me to the meeting. And I'll set the meeting up with this other guy for you." Because, and he and I again, and then we went to the range, and this is so crazy because in my mind, I was like, wow, this is like when you know. And it's just like you and I. When you know, you know. He hands me a Glock and goes, "You know how to use this?" And I was like, "Yeah." I put a Glock on my hip. We're at the range for like 4 hours, sighting in some
Yeah.
rifles, and then he runs me through some drills. And I turned to him afterwards. And I was like, "You must trust me to give me a gun on the range." I was like, "Yes, I know you've got training in that, but again, like," and he's like, "When you know, you know." He's like,
Yeah.
he's like, "You and I just click." And it's the same thing with you and I. And it's so great to have these circles that you can call on.
Well, I look back on my time in Bible college, and I've got a good friend from my time back there, and we've both gone through divorce, and we both had those struggles of how do you deal with, co-parenting, and how do you deal with reframing your life as a man, and how do you deal with things financially, and we've got a lot of similar interests. When we were at college together, he had I think it was an 86 Toyota 4Runner with a Chevy 350 V8 swap in it on
I
35s.
I almost did that to one here.
Yeah. And and he was from Florida. He's from Ocala. I'm from Orlando. And I came up to college and I'm driving a Jeep on 35. So immediately we looked at each other. We're like, hey, you're a redneck from Florida with a lifted truck, and I'm a redneck from Florida with a lifted truck, and we're gonna be friends.
Yeah.
And that connection was like, yep, we got that.
Yeah.
And that has lasted decades.
And then I guarantee if you look, that was that kind of initial thing. And then I guarantee that there is uh, a values connection as well in there also. You guys have some of the
Absolutely.
base values are similar, and you have the similar morals, and it's just and
Oh,
that's so important. You'll have differences. Like my best friend and I, he's very religious. You wouldn't know it, kind of like it sounds like yourself as well, but also at the same time he has completely different views on some things, which is great because he challenges me on them. But at the end of the
right.
day, we can have conversations where we disagree. We agree to disagree. We're still friends, and I can still call him up when I'm in the deepness of something, and he's in the deepness of something. He knows he can call me up, and he has before. And this is, we harp on around this people that you surround yourself with, but it's so important because if you didn't have those people, you would not be
No.
standing here in the situation in the state that you're in right
To
now.
quote a Bible verse, in a multitude of counselors, there is wisdom. Seeing it from all of those different aspects. And I look at it as as a mountain biker, you look at a bike wheel with all the different spokes in it. The more spokes that are in a wheel, the stronger it is. If I've got a 24 spoke wheel, it's probably not going to hold up very much to the abuse that I'm going to put it through. But the more spokes you get in a wheel, the stronger it becomes. And when you realize that if you've got, the more spokes you have in that wheel, the more ways to hold up that weight and take that abuse. When one breaks, the whole thing doesn't collapse. So
Yeah.
having those friendships, and we go back to that social media, that group chat that you talked about. It's like, hey, I saw something on social media and I can send anything to this group chat. Having those friends that, like, no matter what I throw in there, they're not going to get offended. They're not going to think that I've lost my mind. Whereas other people, you're like, I'm going to have to filter that. I can't quite send that to so and
Yeah.
so.
I mean, there's some
But
things that you send, some things that Brandon sent, and there will be some things that I send where I'm like, yeah, no, I don't get it, or oh, yeah,
yeah,
no. But you just go on. You're like, oh, he must be in a mood today.
but that's the great thing around masculinity, is that we have that space for each other to understand, like, hey, we're all going to have off days. And when we do, we can pull on the rope for each other.
Yeah.
Hey, brother, you're not strong enough today. That's okay. I am. I've got you. Oh,
There's also an importance in making sure that those spokes that you actually surround yourself with that create that wheel, as we're talking about using that analogy, are those strong ones. They're not the ones that are going to drive you into that negative or not support you in the way that you need. And sometimes that's actually giving you nothing. That's just literally being there.
I'll tell you, the longer I live this life, I have found over and over again that negativity is a cancer. It is
Huge.
absolutely destructive. And everybody that meets my mom, they love her. They immediately fall in love with my mom. My mom's name is Paula, and her nickname for a lot of people is Positive Paula. It is just like no matter what's going on, like one of the strongest human beings on the face of the earth, lost her husband. Her son has gone through all of these things. And then you meet her and you're like, how are you just so dang happy? Like, because she chooses to be.
Yep.
And
It's a
that
choice every day.
positive mindset is so powerful.
It's that whole thing, grass is the greenest where you water it.
Yeah. So get a bucket and get to
Yeah,
work.
exactly, man. Oh, so good. I know we could talk about so much, so many different things. I appreciate and I cherish your time as well. Josh, tell us a little bit about more about what is in the book. I know we touched on it a little bit. I know it comes out
Sure.
soon. If you send me the link, I'll make sure that the link to so people can buy it on Amazon and that is in the description down below when this goes live. But tell us a little bit about what people can expect by reading the book.
So the title, Every Inch, Every Step, it's an unfiltered, raw account of what happened to me. It's my journey back from the edge of death and how it can help you. It's around 22 chapters. They're all pretty short, about 8 pages apiece. It's not a running novel. It's not a running timeline. It quite literally is snapshots of stories that happened through this time in recovery. It tells my story and then what you can extrapolate from that, what you can get out of it and how it can help you. So it really is a way for me to tell my story, but somebody can pick that up, open it halfway through, take a chapter, read it, and get some encouragement for the day and say, I can use that.
Yeah.
That is the goal of that, is to encourage others. And no matter what the hard time is, because speak softly to everybody. Everybody's going through a hard time. We've all got our struggles. So whether it's medical, physical, family, spiritual, relational, it doesn't matter. You can pick that book up and say, okay, that can apply to me today. And all I had to do was read 6 to 8 pages and I got something from it. That's my goal.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. You're making it more and more appetizing. I might actually have to sit down and read an actual paper book instead of just listening to one.
Yeah.
It's been a while. No, man, that's yeah. So everybody get out and have a look at the link.
You want to go a layer deeper?
Yes, let's go.
Real fast. The cover image for that book is a long road in the middle of the desert. That picture was taken on Christmas Day as I traveled back to where I used to live in Fort Sumner, New Mexico to collect my things after I had driven out on Christmas Eve to surprise my then wife and try to make amends. Was told at the gate of her grandparents' property that she had already filed the divorce paperwork. I turned around, headed home to collect my things, stopped at the top of that hill on Christmas Day, and took that picture of the long road disappearing into the distance for the next 40 plus miles as a reminder that the long road ahead, it's there, but it's worth traveling.
It's amazing how all these little things through our life actually add up for the big moment that we need it in.
So that big long road, that cover image is my image of standing at the top of that road and taking that picture on a Christmas day after finding out I was getting divorced for the second time.
Man, we could have a whole nother conversation around how like just you going through your divorces and like as a man, like yeah, another conversation for another day. Any further words that you want to add before I ask you the final question I always ask and we wrap up?
No, let it rip, brother.
All right, here we go. I can repeat this if need be. If you could hand every man on the planet a single insight that would unlock his potential to lead, love, and live with purpose, what would you tell him?
Give it to me one more time.
Yeah. If you could hand every man on the planet a single insight that would unlock his potential to lead, love, and live with purpose, what would you tell him?
Single insight. You're enough. Wherever you are at the given moment, you're enough and you deserve to be enough. Whether you're at rock bottom, drunk on the couch, and hating life, wrapped in depression, brain fog, pain, or misery at the bottom of a divorce, you're still enough. And if you're at the top of the mountain, soak that in because the mountaintops don't last forever. So the next time you're at rock bottom, Remember what it feels like to be at the mountaintop and get your ass back there. You're enough.
That's great words, man. Great words. Love it, Josh. Thanks so much. Again, I'm so glad that you're still here with us and you're able to tell your story and have these conversations. I appreciate you as well as a friend and as another man. And yeah, man, keep doing amazing stuff. And I can't wait for the next meme that you send me that is probably semi inappropriate.
It will happen.
We definitely will. To all the men out there that have listened and watched all the way through, I appreciate you. You know, without the support and without you watching this, and especially sharing it out and liking it, these wouldn't get out to those other men out there. And again, I say this at every episode. If you found an insight in this and you thought of somebody else, you thought of somebody at some point, send it to them. Because if you thought of them, then obviously there's something there that resonates that you feel that they need, and tell them what it is. Tell them the timestamp on that so that they can go watch that specific area if they don't want to watch the whole thing or listen to the whole thing. And then also, if you want to be on the show or you know somebody that would be a good fit, you can email me at brotherhood@motivatedmasculinemen.com, and we'll get you or get them on the show. We'll get it scheduled up. I appreciate having all sorts of different conversations. If you don't believe in what I'm talking about, even better. Like, come challenge me, come ask me questions. We'll have that deep conversation because that's what it's all about. It's about having those conversations so that we can expand our knowledge, but also be better men and live life in that more calm, peaceful, and masculine way. Till next time, thank you very much. Again, train hard, test easy, always the motto.